Hi, guys. Welcome to Yesterday's Coffee, the podcast where we chat about fitness, nutrition, and business, all over coffee that may or may not have been brewed yesterday. Today, we're talking about sugar.
Yep. Sugar.
Sweet sugar
stuff.
Addiction. Does that exist? Is that a thing that has plagued half of the country, as many of our clients would like us to believe?
Mm-hmm.
And is there a huge difference between types of sugars? So people ask us this question all the time of like, I think the whole world asks this question. Is corn syrup a big deal? Is rice syrup a big deal? Like, what are the differences between these different kinds of sugars?
Mm-hmm.
Are they different? So what is your opinion, Kyle? Because I feel like we might have a
different
opinion. What is your opinion on different types of sugar? So if we were like going down the whole like high fructose corn syrup debate.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but is it not true that high fructose corn syrup is just 55% fructose to 45% glucose? Whereas regular sucrose, table sugar is 50-50. I'm pretty sure that's the number.
I actually don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's the number. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure that's the number. And for that reason, I really don't think of high fructose corn syrup as being a big deal. I think you're probably going to give the exact opposite response to this. But that, if I have that number correct, high fructose corn syrup is literally 55. Now, maybe it can be more. Maybe that's like the bottom of the scale.
Yeah.
And high fructose corn syrup can be even higher. Percentage of fructose versus
because there is a difference
glucose.
In how your body processes certain
those.
Yes.
Yeah. So
sugars. So there's a difference between fructose and then some of your other sugars.
Right. So the reason that is important is because with glucose, your body is able to use that in any number of different situations. So your liver stores glucose, your muscles store glucose as a form as glycogen. Which is used to fuel your exercise, which is great. It's very important. Whereas fructose can only be stored in the liver, and the liver can only hold up to, I think, like 70 or 80 grams of carbs, depending on how big you are. And so for that reason, you're very limited in the quantity of fructose that your body can
basically
store beneficially before
at one time.
Yeah, before it's just stored away as fat.
Yeah. So basically before it becomes more of a burden to the body, like there is kind of sort of a limit of fructose. Versus glucose where your body can literally store tons and tons of glucose.
Well, there's still a limit, but it's
higher.
So like if I can store, we'll say 80 grams of fructose, I can probably store 300, 400 grams of glucose.
Just to put it in perspective.
So it's that much bigger a difference. So when we're looking at a sugar specifically, and you're looking at the difference between table sugar, which is a 50-50 split of fructose and glucose, and high fructose corn syrup, which, I think it's 55%. Maybe it goes higher. Maybe. I could be wrong.
The biggest difference with high fructose corn syrup, it's called high fructose because basically what they've done is they've chemically changed the structure in order to get more sugar into like a certain volume than would be found in nature. Mm-hmm. That's basically the difference between like corn syrup and corn sugar versus high fructose corn syrup.
Right.
So they chemically change the structure. It's kind of like when you dissolve sugar into a hot beverage versus a cold beverage. Mm-hmm. That's the difference between like normal corn sugar or corn syrup versus high fructose corn syrup. So basically they are able to dissolve more fructose into that, making this thing sweeter per gram. So the taste is sweeter, which that's where things can get kind of tricky because then it's like, when something's been sweetened with high fructose corn syrup, it's probably going to be higher in sugar than like using the same amount of table sugar to sweeten something. Did that make sense?
Yeah, I see where you're going with that.
Yeah. So if we're talking like per like set volume
if the volume's
of each,
the same,
there might be more grams of sugar in the high fructose corn syrup. Mm-hmm. Regardless, your body needs sugar, needs carbs to function, and we know that. And there's, eventually all of the carbs in your body are going to get converted into sugar as being the most usable form of carbohydrate for energy. Correct?
Yeah, stored as glycogen.
Well, but in order to use it. So at some point, all of that glycogen is going to be turned into glucose, which is the sugar form.
Yeah, glucose, but So we need to separate glucose from table sugar, because table sugar is glucose plus fructose.
Yeah. I think that's too
Just
much.
to be
I
clear.
think that's too. I feel like that's just too sciencey.
What? That's the truth.
It is the truth. It is the truth. So regardless, there's a bunch of different kinds of sugar. Your body uses them in slightly different ways sometimes, but at the end of the day, they're all going to supply your body with energy that your body needs to function.
Mm-hmm. So to kind of round out that first question, if you've got a food that has 10 grams of table sugar in it, and you've got a food that has 10 grams of high fructose corn syrup based sugar in it, it's really not going to affect you any differently, to be perfectly honest.
No.
It wouldn't make a huge difference unless that percentage of high fructose corn syrup is higher than I'm thinking, and unless it's in larger quantities, because then that's where that fructose is going to be much more limited by its capacity to be stored in the liver versus the glucose.
Which I feel like is a valid thing to think about, though, because there's such a great amount of high fructose corn syrup used. If you're thinking everything that you eat that's been sweetened has been sweetened with high fructose corn syrup, that you're more likely to hit that threshold.
Potentially, yeah.
So I feel like it's worth pointing out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth noting.
It's very commonly used to sweeten things.
Yeah.
Then you have kind of like the other side of the debate, which is things that Kyle doesn't really care about in terms of like where like how that plant has been treated. So
how the plant has been treated?
Well, like the corn itself. So most of our corn obviously is like treated with glyphosate and, pesticides and herbicides. Okay. So if that's something that affects your body, that could also be, have a compounding effect if you're consuming a lot of foods that have this type of sugar in it. But that would be like the only other major difference between like sugars across the board.
Right.
But that's not really what we're talking about today. So, the main thing that we want to talk about really is this whole idea of sugar addiction. So a lot of people say or think that when they have this like feeling of not being in control around junk or desserts or sugary foods,
they're an addict.
They're an addict. And that's the reason for their failure in their weight loss efforts, is because they're addicted to sugar. They can't give sugar up. They have to have sugar every day, all day, and so they must be addicted. So this is kind of, I guess, another question or issue of semantics in using the word addiction.
Yeah, so we're going to be like vocabulary police here.
Well, because I feel like because people use it so casually in like articles in media and online, people do get it in their mind that they are like dependent on the sugar.
Yeah, and I guess that makes it more of like a crutch. Like, oh, I'm addicted to this, so I can't
It ends up
possibly
being an
fight
excuse
urge.
where people truly believe that like there is something working against them that they can't control because they're addicted to sugar.
Yeah. And it's not true. It's
not true.
So if we're speaking about the true definition, you cannot be physically addicted to sugar any more than your body is just naturally in need of energy. So it's always going to be searching for energy.
True.
But your body can derive energy from just about anything and convert that into the sugar that it needs.
Your body basically has this whole background system to be able to supply you with energy no matter what the circumstance, right?
Yeah.
So you have this whole system within your body that can convert fats and proteins into sugar when needed. So there is no physiological dependence on sugar itself. Your body does need sugar to run and it needs carbs to run, but at the same time, it can make what it needs from anything you give it.
Right.
Like if you're eating anything at all.
Right. So you're not going to have that physical attachment to it like you would with an actual chemical addiction.
Yeah. So it is true that sugar has been shown to light up certain parts of the brain that might also light up in somebody who's addicted to other substances. Yeah. However, there's no corresponding physiological dependence on sugar like you see happen in addicts.
Right.
Or people who are addicted to other things. So I think that's a really important point because there is a mental component, there's a psychological component, but there is really no, I don't want to say there's no physical component because obviously they're all connected.
Obviously a physical component to it.
But there's no dependence. Like, your body does not need you to eat table sugar right now in order to function.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that feeling, it probably comes down to something else.
Right. And so what you're feeling is a craving. And so this is where we're getting into the semantics of it. A craving versus an addiction. It's
very different. It's very different. Let's be honest.
Right. Exactly.
And I think it's kind of unfair to go around telling people you have a sugar addiction when that's not true at all.
Yeah, but I also don't. I mean, I don't think people say it that seriously either.
No, some people do. You might not see those clients, but I see those clients.
Maybe.
Also, my mom.
I don't see it.
Shout out, Mom. I love you.
I don't see that happening that often. But yeah, so a craving is different because it's, like you said, it's not that physiological dependence. But it's certainly a physical manifestation of your body wanting this particular food.
Yes, there are a series of physical mechanisms or metabolic mechanisms that can increase your body's drive or search for sugar-based foods.
Right.
I guess we could say.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that can cause like a craving?
So definitely lower calories, or especially at the tail end of very high intensity activity. So sugar is the fastest form of energy.
It's instant energy to your body.
That you can bring in your body. So
it's absorbed the quickest, it's digested the quickest out of anything else you could consume.
Right. So these cravings stem from a biological survival mechanism of providing your body with the energy that it needs. So if you're on a chronically low calorie diet, or you just came off the end of a crazy training session and you've burned through all your stored energy, that craving kicks in because your body is trying to draw you towards energy and to help replenish everything that you just burned through, or everything that you haven't been providing your body with over whatever course of time that's been.
Yeah. Typically, that's kind of showing that your blood sugar is falling low and your body is trying to maintain a constant level.
Right. Right.
So
what are some others?
So the other things that could be happening are, it kind of always goes back to that whole like blood sugar balance thing, right? So if we are eating meals that are too high in carbs or potentially too low in proteins or fats, then you're going to end up running through that meal a lot quicker. So you're going to kind of have like this surge of blood sugar that's going to leave your bloodstream a lot quicker.
The roller coaster.
Yeah. So then you kind of get on this blood sugar roller coaster, which we've talked about kind of in our cortisol episode before. And having these periods of like spikes and crashes, once your blood sugar crashes, your body is then, again, trying to regulate. It's trying to like put itself back into balance or back into homeostasis. So you're going to want more instant energy. Your body doesn't have time to wait around for a whole meal to digest. So you're not going to be craving like a salad or, a steak typically. You're going to be craving something that's carb heavy because your body knows that that is quick, fast energy.
Right.
So cortisol is on the other side of that too. So that can be related to the blood sugar thing where it crashes and then we have a surge of cortisol, which, promotes a carb craving, but stress, chronic stress that has like a continually elevated cortisol level will also cause you to crave carbs.
Right.
Cortisol keeps your body from producing serotonin effectively, and carbs go into kind of building serotonin. And we know that carbs also light up a lot of those like happy areas of our brain. So when our body's feeling kind of low or under a lot of stress, again, carbs are going to be the thing that your body's going to want you to eat.
Yeah, those reward centers light up. And then the other piece of that hormone-wise is insulin. So when you've got these massive influx of fast-digesting sugars, your body's response is insulin spike. Insulin is what then clears the bloodstream of all that.
So that facilitates the
and
roller
that
coaster.
Facilitates the crash. And then, like you said, the cortisol spikes it back up, and then here we go.
And we know that that's also bad because that's going to promote fat storage, correct? Right? Because insulin is our, primary storage hormone.
Yeah.
So, that's why these cravings are really often associated with people who are unsuccessful with their weight loss efforts. It's because those two things go really closely together.
Right.
I think going back to the whole like low calorie aspect or the whole kind of end of your workout aspect, there is also a lot of research that shows, or I guess explains, these like feelings of not being able to control yourself or to like crave carbs kind of to a crazy level, right?
Specifically post-exercise?
Not specifically post-exercise, but like relating, like in that same realm. So a lot of research points, again, not to a physiological dependence on sugar, but there is this whole idea of deprivation and what deprivation does to your brain and to your body, especially, you know, when it comes to the things that you're depriving yourself of. So when people want to lose weight, most people think that they need to get rid of all carbs, all sugar. They need to avoid all desserts and all things that they love.
I love the no sugar added foods, like whatever that category is.
Okay, no, that makes sense though.
I think it's funny.
Okay. We can talk about that later, but it's more of like, okay, how is sugar packaged in nature? It's not packaged in like tablespoons. It's packaged in like foods that have fiber and other things. So no sugar added does have a benefit, I think. But that's not what we're talking about. So where was I? I lost my train of thought.
Sorry to derail that. What were we talking about?
The whole deprivation thing.
Yeah, deprivation.
So there is, like, that has a lot of research and a lot of science to back it up in terms of what happens when someone restricts something, specifically carbs or specifically sugar-based foods. When you create this environment where things are scarce, it's not only a mental thing, but then I think it kind of has some metabolic consequences as well, where when you finally allow yourself to have that thing, or when you finally, you know, break, there's no feeling of satiety. There's like no control.
Yeah.
You do feel out of control because your body has been restricted from this thing for so long, and it's something that provides a benefit to the body. It provides energy to the body.
Right.
So your body's going to try and load up on it while it can, because you've built this environment where it's not available to you all the time.
Anybody that's ever done a physique or bodybuilding show knows that feeling.
That's exactly what happens. That's what happens to all competitors. And that is what creates this really bad binge cycle with a lot of people. And that's where these feelings of, oh, I'm an addict, I'm addicted to sugar, I can't control myself, I can't stop myself. And for that reason, I will always be unsuccessful in my, health or weight loss endeavor.
Yeah. Quick aside, after my bodybuilding show, I went to Smash Burger and started with a double cheeseburger, double mushroom and Swiss burger, actually. Fries, of course. And then proceeded to have 14 Krispy Kreme donuts. 14
donuts. Honestly, how many donuts did it take for you to not even taste them anymore? Like, you can't enjoy all 14 of those, can you?
It was one great big experience.
Like, you can't even, like, separate them at all.
Top 5 experiences in my life.
Oh, my
honestly.
God.
But yeah, no, I know exactly what that feels like.
But it is a feeling of being out of control and not being able to stop, because what your body does is it turns down all of those signals that would normally tell you you've had enough, because what your body's trying to do is load you up to put you in a better position.
Right. If you've been in such a state where you've been restricted from that much for that long, when it's available, your body has no restrictions, because it's like, we might only get one shot at this.
Yeah. So your body is literally just trying to keep you alive and protected and safe.
So we're going to bring in everything we possibly can.
Yes.
You can.
And you can.
You definitely can.
I mean, it really does turn off all signals. Like, you don't feel your stomach get full that quickly. No, you don't feel like there's no satisfaction. It feels satisfying in a way, but like, it also feels like you're an empty pit, right? It's like, it's this very strange, like, you're so happy about it, but there's nothing like physically satisfying about it. Yeah. It's like this hunger that just keeps going.
Yeah, you just want to keep fulfilling that taste.
So, the biggest problem then is not the carb food and not the position that you're in being around those types of foods. The problem was that you deprived yourself to that point where your body has overridden your willpower. Like, your body has overridden every signal. And that's a problem. And that's not what life should be like, and that's not what dieting should be like.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you're in that position, it's definitely something to reevaluate. And you might kind of have to go through a period of time where you eat a lot of carbs and sugar. Like, honestly, that's the best way to beat this. As crazy as that sounds, that's kind of the only way to get your body back to normal is to tell yourself that there are no restrictions. Which I know can put people in a compromised position.
That's a strange thing to say, but yeah.
That's how people get past, like, those types of eating issues.
Yeah, sometimes it's also how people get really obese.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, it's having a healthy respect for yourself while doing so.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm trying to say?
I know what you're trying to say.
Like, it's kind of like the whole holiday season thing, right? Like, we all give ourselves permission to indulge because it's a special occasion. It's a holiday. It's a season where we're together. And and everybody does this. Everybody gives themselves more permission to go off the rails during the holiday season. And usually, by the end of the holiday season, we're all tired of it.
Right.
Like, we want to go back to eating real food and vegetables.
Try to burn myself out on sugar after Christmas.
But that's what I'm saying is, like, you reach a certain point when when you let yourself indulge so much that you stop having those intense cravings because it's so readily available. You don't feel the draw.
Well, and you don't get that same satisfaction from it because it's just continually there.
Yeah.
It's normalized.
So again, I mean, that's sometimes the way to get past it is to, like, give yourself permission to have foods like that. And at a certain point, like, you're going to burn yourself out. And then you can get back on track.
So if I am somebody that has major sugar cravings, what can I do?
I think number one is making sure that you're not doing that. So making sure that you're not depriving yourself first. I think that's number one.
Well, so let me rephrase this. I'm somebody with major sugar cravings, and that makes me eat sugar all day long.
So you're talking about, like, lifestyle balance.
Yeah, so if I'm somebody that...
So you have a weight loss goal, okay?
I'm trying to lose
the number one thing that's always important, don't restrict yourself so severely.
So they're already not.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's number one. Okay. Number two would be to kind of take an overview of your whole day and look at your meals and see if they're balanced. So are you creating this craving by having meals that are unbalanced?
Right.
Whether you don't have enough protein, you don't have enough fat, you don't have enough fiber. Like, is there something missing nutritionally? Mm-hmm. And then maybe taking even, like, a further step back and saying, are my meals regular? Do I eat at regular times throughout the day? Or do I maybe have, like, super long stretches between breakfast and lunch? Or do I skip lunch and just wait, like, go from breakfast to dinner? And is there an 8-hour window there that I'm not eating?
Right.
Because in that situation, again, your blood sugar is going to fall. You're going to get really tired, and your body's going to crave carbs and energy.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to get at because that's, I mean, we see that all the time where somebody says, like, I just have this major problem with sugar, and I'll just go grab this at this time, and I'll grab this again, and then after dinner I'll grab more, and they're definitely not abstaining from it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, well, so the reason that you're coming and feeling this way is because the rest of your meals aren't providing the nutrition and balance that is going to keep you in equilibrium. Mm-hmm. So your body continues to send out this signal of, like, all right, we need this energy. And as soon as you start to address those things by making sure that your meals are filled with plenty of lean proteins, fibrous vegetables, stuff of that nature, healthy fats, things that help regulate blood sugar, regulate insulin and all of that, that's where those things start to dissipate to a much more controllable degree.
Yeah. Well, and also not creating this environment in your mind where this thing is so scarce. Because I think even people on diets, like, feel like they can't work this stuff in often enough. And so if they're going to do it, it's almost this, like, taboo, like, oh, I know I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the flip side of the coin. You have these people on one side that can't stop eating the sugar because they're hooked on it. And then you've got the other people that if they even think they take a bite of a cookie, that their whole day just falls apart.
Yeah. So I think you just have to have a really good, healthy perspective on it first, but then obviously also make sure that you're not missing anything else nutritionally or you don't have these other huge, obvious gaps. Even some, like, different micronutrients can support the way that your body's going to cause you to crave certain things. So, making sure you're taking your multivitamin or getting all your vegetables or whatever it needs to be. But those are the easiest ways to control it, would be through controlling your actual blood sugar. That would be the easiest way to control cravings.
Regularly. And then if you do still have some cravings, get some Halo Top. Get some of those.
Or just eat a piece of chocolate. That's fine too.
Small piece of chocolate. Dark chocolate's really good.
The point is for it not to snowball.
Right.
And it won't snowball, again, if you have a healthy perspective and outlook on it. And you're also setting up your nutrition and your activity well.
Right. That's the real key. I mean,
both of those pieces have to go together.
Yeah.
And in that situation, cravings are infrequent. And when they happen, it's not a big deal.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Do you have anything else?
That'll do it.
Awesome. So sugar addiction, not a super real thing, but cravings can be pretty crippling, I think, to weight loss, but super controllable. Mm-hmm. So there's always something you can do about it. If you guys want us to cover a certain topic, you can reach out to me at therootedrd.com, or you can reach out to Kyle at hypertrofit.com. So yeah, I guess we'll just see you next week.
We'll see you guys next week.